The road is not always straight. There have been a lot of turns in my life to get to where I am. Moving from the field of veterinary technology to that of English major, freelance editor, is a change that leaves people frequently looking at me like I grew another head. Over the last few years of working in a small animal emergency hospital, there were more moments when I wanted to quit. I would drag myself to my car to drive home in the dark, gulping down the water that I didn't have time to drink all day, to sleep a few hours and leave again. I would remind myself of good things that happened during the day. The dog that kissed my hand while I listened to his heart, the kitten that let me cuddle her. I went to school for this, survived on pure love of the job for a long time. I had been working Friday through Sunday 12-hour shifts for 2 years. I only remember the first part of the day, helping 2 animals cross the Rainbow Bridge. It was not an unusual number, but it was back to back. When I looked at my second chart of the morning and saw another euthanasia appointment, I half grimaced, half smiled at a coworker and said, "I guess I'm the angel of death today." Cooper was a golden retriever, about 10, aged but not old, but he was riddled with cancer. He'd been fighting for a few months. His owner had decided to stop having the tumors removed and enjoy the time with him. They took pictures with Cooper, petting him, hugging him. They took a picture of the little heart I made on the IV catheter wrap on his front leg. I had picked blue wrap with a red heart, cut by hand just for him. I thought it would look sweet with his thinning blonde fur. He'd already had a sedative, so I don't think he cared one way or the other. I couldn't mourn with them, it wasn't professional, but I petted and listened. Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer told me stories about Cooper as a puppy, how he liked to play and the mischief he got into. It was another day, a normal day. I blanked out the rest of it. Vague memories of talking to a doctor here and the waning afternoon light there, meaning it was almost time to go. I know that I kept doing my job because I got home about 2 hours late, as usual. I always remembered my patients, but that day when I got home I remembered not a single whiskery face. Walking in the house, I set down my things and moved toward the counter, registering that my husband was in the kitchen cooking dinner for me. He must have smiled at me and asked about my day like always. The memory blinked after that. When I opened my eyes to awareness again, I was sitting on our bed, back ramrod straight, legs posted to the floor holding me up. I realized an arm had come around me. Cameron was sitting behind me, had leaned me back against him. There were tears washing down my entire face, and my Caribbean blue scrubs were damp at the neck. He was murmuring to me, comforting me with a firm, quiet voice. My back relaxed against his chest, and I realized from feeling his slight intake of breath that he'd been waiting for me to come around before speaking. I looked over, saw the worried frown at odds with his calm words.
"What happened?"
he asked, expecting one of the horror stories that I occasionally came home with. Terrible injuries, a favorite patient dying, or an owner yelling vicious words. I don't know. It was just another day at work. I don't know what's wrong with me. I was swiping at my face with the bottom of my shirt, determined to stop my useless crying. "Let me go get a tissue. I'll be right back."
"I've got it."
He got up instead and brought me one from the bathroom. "It's just, we had 2 euthanasias this morning. Maybe that was it. I don't remember anything much after that."
"I think it's time, honey."
He'd said that a couple of times before, when I got emotionally overwhelmed by a patient's case or another work situation. Though he would never discourage me, he looked out for my emotional welfare better than I did. Already considering returning to school for a bachelor's to teach veterinary technology, I kept wandering around online, looking up English teaching jobs instead. As young as I can remember, I loved stories, what they could teach and the lives they touched. My dad taught me to love to read. I remember reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy 3 times one year. My mom taught me to love to listen, and that found its way into my writing. Feeling the emotions of others often guided poems and other excerpts from my days. I loved those animals so fiercely that it almost broke me. Reading, writing, and learning has become my life once more. The stories I've heard make their way into my writing just as they used to, guiding me through healing. I would never have gotten there, found the strength to change anything, had it not been for days like that one. Exploring further, it wasn't teaching that I came up with, but editing. Working directly with the stories as they are being created is so exciting to me. Taking a small part with the authors, assisting in the creation of a work is a joy that could not be found elsewhere. That road I was talking about, it's almost like it wound backwards and forwards at the same time, through one love, and back to another.